As a forensic pathologist, here's what I saw when Charlie Kirk was. The gushing blood points to a jugular vein injury. His arms pulling inward is very typical of decorticate posturing, which occurs usually during catastrophic brain damage. At 200 yards with a rifle, which is what would probably cause that, bullets don't just pass through the neck, they would fragment and destroy everything in their path. With that kind of injury, he would have and survived for less than a minute and probably felt nothing. Law enforcement always finds the shooter, and violence in response to speech is never just.
Autopsy dropped. They say Charlie Kirk felt nothing, sis. From the moment he was struck, he went out instantly. And the report is clear about how sudden it was right now. That's why we gotta be real about this event. This reads like an execution, plain and simple. Don't matter if you lean left, right, or are sitting on the fence. Politics don't change what happened. Every hit looks sudden, but history teaches there are levels to these attacks. Yet I'm not equating Charlie to Dr. King, but when he landed in Memphis in 1968, it wasn't instant at all. The civil rights legend fought for hours in that hospital bed before doctors finally called it. That stretch of time gave America a window to hope, to pray, to believe he might just pull through. Same with Malcolm X in 1965. After being hit multiple times at the Audubon Ballroom, he was rushed to Columbia Presbyterian, and the doctors worked on him for a while before declaring him gone. Even Medgar Evers, shot right outside his own home in Jackson in 1963, still made it into an emergency room, breathing, fighting. But Charlie Kirk? None of that. If the autopsy reads true, he was gone before anyone could even blink. Expect fatal trauma on impact. No survivable window at all, not even a second.
At just within 48 hours before Charlie passed away, his top Jewish donors were pulling funding from him, demanding that Charlie take their name off of the building that they had donated to Turning Point. I guess I can figure out who that is, how many people could have donated a building. And then once Charlie was killed, they said, never mind, put it back on the building, okay? Charlie himself had alluded to a tremendous loss of money coming in, and we'll speak about that more. More people are going to come out with information.
His case falls closer to the cold, clinical drop him where he stood style of assassination. And that detail matters heavy because it screams intent. This wasn't just about silencing him. It was about making sure he had zero chance to fight back. No time for last words, no space for iconic deathbed speeches, nothing left but silence. And that's why Owens and Trump are eyeing this autopsy like hawks. If it confirms what people already whisper, they'll twist it as proof that Charlie wasn't just a casualty, he was a target.
This is all inevitable, okay? And I'll also point you in this direction. You guys remember Bibi recently was on a PR blitz, despite the fact that he was, fighting this 96,000 front war because it do nothing, okay? He was doing a ton of podcasts in America. He went on to Patrick Bet-David's podcast. He went on to Brennan Tatum's podcast. He went on to the Nelk Boys podcast. Anybody find it weird he didn't do
The speed of his death becomes the centerpiece, painted like they wanted him erased fast, with no chance to resist. That angle hits hard, especially for a movement that thrives on martyrdom. And Candace Owens? She didn't waste a single second sugarcoating it. From the very first words of her podcast, she came swinging. She made it plain with her stare. Charlie Kirk wasn't just gone, he was taken out. Not some tragic passing, straight up executed in daylight. She dragged anybody she thought was spinning lies about his death, calling out the fake narratives loud and raw. What made her rant hit different wasn't only the grief, it was straight up fury. She said she cried in a way she never does, then flipped to full fire, blasting political figures and media voices for twisting Charlie's story to fit their hustle. She even named one leader, accusing him of misrepresenting Kirk's last letter and acting like Charlie died as a soldier for his country. And she didn't hold back.
He didn't work alone on the internet because it seems that he became radicalized on the internet. That's just by watching same things that you're watching and hearing. It looks like he became radicalized over the internet. And it seems like he has wonderful parents, brought in a wonderful neighborhood, smart guy, great boards, great marks, great student. And then something happened to him over a fairly short period of time. It looks like he was radicalized over the internet.
She warned she didn't want to end up on a hit list, so she kept some lines tight, but fierce. Owens wasn't having it. In her words, Charlie had been hemmed in, cornered by billionaires and donors mad about his willingness to platform dissenting voices, and that pressure was boiling over before he died. Trump slid into the story like he always does, flipping Charlie's death into a martyr play for his crew. He mashed Charlie's killing with his own "they tried to take me out" vibe, saying they got Kirk and they'll be coming after Trump next. Charlie wasn't just a fallen ally. He turned into ammo for the base. He was painted as another brick in the wall of MAGA persecution.
And it's radicalized on the left. He's a left. I have a lot of problems with the left, and they get protected, and they shouldn't be protected. But as you understand, I think very well from the tone of your question.
The image his camp pushed out, Charlie's face flanked by the US and Israeli flags, only cranked up the conspiracy chatter Candace was already fanning. The result? A split screen playing out in real time. On one side, Owens raw and emotional, framing Kirk's last days as a man under siege, hinting his refusal to bow to outside pressure might have sealed his fate. On the other side, Trump blowing Charlie up into a full-blown movement symbol, a rallying cry for patriots who feel under constant attack. Between their megaphones, almost every other conservative voice trying to sound measured got drowned out completely. And then came the media spin. Mainstream outlets locked in on Erica Kirk's widow speech, powerful words about keeping Charlie's mission alive. But online, it was Candace's rage clips that blew up, her accusations, her fire, her vow to expose anyone trying to slide into Charlie's chair. That's what lit up the timelines. She wasn't just grieving her friend, she was planting her flag, claiming herself as the keeper of his legacy, daring donors, allies, or politicians to challenge her.
Because I am telling you, this is not a battle between left and right. We all thought that at some point. We believed that. You're my enemy, you're my enemy. It is not a battle between Russia, Ukraine. I don't care what your political issue of the day is. What is happening right now in the world and what just happened to my friend Charlie Kirk is a battle of sheer evil versus goodness.
That's the spin war in full motion. Trump framing Kirk as a martyr for MAGA, Candace branding him a martyr for truth, and the public left sifting through grief that's tangled up with conspiracy. Now peep the part that got the blog straight buzzing. The whispers about whether Charlie Kirk's death was random or if bigger fingerprints were all over it. And sis, the rumor that won't quit says he crossed the wrong people, and that theory spread fast like wildfire. For years, Charlie was loud for that blue country in the Middle East, their biggest cheerleader on stage, fronting fundraisers, standing shoulder to shoulder with top lobbyists, and defending them on college lawns like it was his whole brand. He was the golden boy for the cause, hyping their policies and that special relationship with America like it paid his bills. But about a year back, Charlie's tone started sliding. Not loud at first, just a subtle shift. Instead of showering nonstop praise, he slipped in sharper questions. Instead of parroting the usual talking points, he brought on guests who weren't fully locked in with that blue country's narrative, and that raised eyebrows quick. And if you know politics, even the smallest crack in loyalty can look like betrayal. Fast forward to just days before his death, Charlie sat down with Ben Shapiro, and word on the blogs is that convo got tense. He pressed harder than usual, throwing tough questions about policy, about influence, about who's really cashing in on the billions America ships overseas.
In the conflict of versus Hamas, who's the good guy?
I believe both Hamas and the government are evil, but I think also that there is no justification.
Are they equally?
There is no justification for the mutilation of thousands of innocent people and children.
But let's-
The futile.
Let's zero in on it.
There is no justification, Mr. Kirk, for invading hospitals, for innocent populations, and dragging out a war which is damaging Israel and the West's security.
You've made that point, but
Well, it's not a point; it's a moral truth, isn't
okay,
it?
yeah. It was also a moral truth that the war started because 1,300 Jews.
Looking back, that interview feels straight up eerie, almost like foreshadowing. Now folks replay the clip saying, yep, that was the moment he signed his own check. And this is where Candace Owens' podcast slides headfirst into conspiracy lane. She claimed Charlie was under crushing pressure from billionaires and donors. the very people who didn't want him cracking that door open 2 and 2, and the internet's buzzing that those donors weren't just wealthy Americans, but big-time allies of that blue country in the Middle East. If Charlie was really about to pivot away from lockstep loyalty, that made him dangerous. And history? It's not clean here either. Plenty of voices who clap back at that region say they got smeared, deplatformed, or cut off from cash. And people hear that loud and clear. The story goes, speak too loud, and there's a cost. In Charlie's case, folks are whispering that the cost wasn't only losing donors, it was ending up 6 feet under. I'm not claiming this as fact, but you gotta peep the timeline.
Some people would accuse of wanting to ethnically cleanse. Some people in the government are saying, again, it's all over the place, right? You have opinions all over. In your opinion, what would a good outcome 5 years from now be, and how does one respond to the claims of ethnic cleansing?
So ethnic cleansing, the idea, presumably, that population movement is equivalent to ethnic cleansing. I think ethnic cleansing is a term that's been fairly recently coined to describe population movement during war. And the reality is that's been ongoing for
a year of slow shift criticism, a tense sit with Shapiro, Candace screaming about billionaire pressure, and then boom, Charlie drops instantly with no chance to fight or say last words. That's why the streets keep asking, random violence or a warning shot sent to anyone thinking of breaking ranks. Let's step back for a second, because history shows the real danger isn't always the enemy outside. It's the betrayal inside. And that's the shadow haunting this whole Charlie Kirk story. Not just who pulled the trigger, but who stood to gain the moment he was gone. Think about it. Charlie wasn't just some random activist. He was a brand, a whole movement.
or literally all of human history. The idea that is, quote unquote, forcing people out of the Gaza Strip, that is not the stated policy of the government. The idea is if people want to leave, they can, but they're not being forced to leave.
Turning Point USA wasn't just a campus hustle. It was a multi-million-dollar machine, pumped up by donors and billionaires, with Charlie as the golden boy in the middle. Remove him from the board, and suddenly there's a vacuum. An empty throne, a chair everyone swears to honor, but plenty want to sit in. But plenty of folks are itching to slide into that seat. And Candace Owens, sis, she said it straight. Her warning about people eyeing Charlie's chair wasn't some cute metaphor. It was a shot fired. She knows the game is cutthroat. One day you're the voice of the youth, the next your so-called friends are already auditioning to snatch your spot. And if that sounds over the top, just remember, Julius Caesar's end didn't come from enemies on the street.
Ever. And I will say this, the behavior by a lot, both privately and publicly, are pushing people like you and me away. Not like we're gonna be pro-Hamas, not like we're gonna, but we're like, honestly, the way you are treating me is so repulsive. I have text messages, Megan, calling me an anti.
It came from the very senators he trusted. Betrayal is as old as power itself. So the real Judas question here is, who gains the most from Charlie's silence? The donors who allegedly thought he was drifting from the script? Other conservative influencers who've been chasing his spotlight for years? Or maybe the political heavyweights who'd rather absorb his energy into their brand than risk him breaking loose and going rogue? Now, I'm not saying his inner circle plotted his fall, but the streets are side-eyeing just how quick the vultures started circling. Leadership at Turning Point is already talking continuity, while other MAGA voices drop tributes that sound a little too much like job applications. And the loudest of them all, Candace, swearing she'll guard his legacy, while at the same time staking her claim as the one who knew the real Charlie best. But flip the script for a sec. What if it wasn't Judas at all? What if there wasn't some billionaire puppet show or donor conspiracy behind it? What if it was just one guy, one split-second act of violence with no strings attached? Even if that's the cold truth, in today's world, perception runs the show, not facts. Candace, Trump, and the whole movement already spun this into an execution narrative. And once that storyline locks in, the facts get buried under the noise. People pick a lane fast, and that lane becomes reality whether it's earned or not. So what we gotta do? Watch the angles, call out the vultures, and keep asking questions until the story stops getting hijacked by spin. Don't let anyone sell you a finished narrative without receipts. Stay sharp, stay skeptical, and keep your mind open. If you want more raw takes and real talk, subscribe and like my video. Hit that button and stay in the loop.